Hello, everybody. I am here inside of the Hollywood 20 movie theater at the Sarasota Film Festival, and I am so excited because I'm about to interview the cast and crew of Source Productions' The First Time Club. They already had a sold-out screening the other night. I cried from the beginning to the end. It is the most amazing movie, and most importantly, it is the most talented group of people ever. I should know, I've worked with them. They're amazing, so let's talk to them. I am here with the brilliant, talented, amazing, beautiful KT Curran, director, producer, writer of the Source Productions and also of the First Time Club. So KT, let's talk. You know I'm a huge fan of yours.
Vice versa.
So let's talk a little bit about the First Time Club and sort of the legacy of the First Time Club.
Well, the First Time Club began as a play that we have done for thousands and thousands of young people across the world, and primarily in Florida. And it has been such a popular play and legacy of Source Productions that we decided we needed to make a film and show it around the world.
Yes, spread the Source energy around the world. Now tell me, what are the themes surrounding the First Time Club, and why is it so important that young people are exposed to projects like this?
Well, the First Time Club is about a group of teenage friends in a secret world of adventure, love, and betrayal. And what happens to that friendship when one of them becomes infected with HIV? Florida is actually waivers between number 1 and number 2 in the nation for new HIV infections. That's not okay. In Source Productions, we care vitally about young people. We want to make a difference. There are no throwaway kids. And so we do stories about youth at risk and try to encourage them to have healthy lives and to pursue their dreams.
What advice would you give a young person who wants to have a creative outlet and maybe wants to share their story? What would you tell them to go do?
I think many things. Because technology is so accessible, you can make movies and tell stories with your iPhone. Yeah. You can write stories in your journal and post them in a blog online. You can do YouTube channels of your own that can be seen by millions of people, or even just 100 of your closest friends. But there are so many ways to get your story out there and have your story told. And youth voices need to be heard. We believe in the power of youth voices.
Thank you so much, KT.
Thank you.
My character's name is Allison throughout the film, and she is basically the girl that kind of starts off the most innocent in the beginning, and she's not that she's not smart, but she's very naive, and she doesn't really quite realize what she's getting herself into. And so throughout the course of the film, it's the First Time Club, so they're trying things for the first time, and she just kind of blindly tries these things without fully knowing, what she's doing. And then as the story unfolds, she finds herself in a little bit of trouble, and then it kind of goes from there. But I think to me, she's a beautiful character, and she's a very powerful character, because it kind of really shows that it could happen to anyone. And even if you're not necessarily into doing bad things or anything like that, you could still find yourself in a situation like this.
And what is the situation that happens to Allison for people who haven't seen it?
Okay, so to Allison, she ends up getting HIV. And it's tragic, but also at the same time, you kind of see that it's not the end of the world. And she kind of, I think her character, like I said, it's beautiful, because you see that there are ways that you can get out of a situation like this and also deal with it, and it doesn't have to be the worst thing.
Yeah, and you show that beautifully. My next question for you is, her character has such an emotional arc, and you go to such deep places of falling in love and heartbreak and betrayal and finding out you're HIV positive. And I really saw in the movie that you went to those places. How do you as an actress do that?
What I would say is you have to have a lot of trust within yourself, and then also to be able to trust your cast as well. And then I think besides trust, a key thing is honestly confidence. You have to be confident in what you're doing and really give yourself 100% to what you're doing, because if you believe in what you're doing, then everyone else around you believes in what you're doing.
Thank you, LEXI, and we look forward to watching your whole career unfold, because I think you're going to have a huge career as an actress.
Thank you.
I played Julian. At the beginning of the film, he's sort of struggling to come to terms with his sexuality. And sort of in the middle of the film, he comes out to his friends in a really cute, charming way, the best way possible, I think. And he's sort of like the peacekeeper of the group. During all this turmoil, he really tries to keep neutrality among the friends. And he is just a loving, kind character, and it was really fun to play someone so warm like this.
Yeah. And so much of the work, because I'm a huge fan. Like, I'm your biggest fan. Yes, he does so much comedy, and you're so talented at drama as well. And do you feel like one is easier than the other, or they're both just about being honest? Like, what's your comfort zone as an actor?
Yeah, I think I'm more comfortable doing comedy, but I always think it depends on like the role or the story, because sometimes I've had really hard times on comedic sets. I think it depends on, the project, but I do prefer comedy.
Okay, and what advice would you give young actors who want to move to New York and pursue their dreams like you're doing right now?
Yeah, I think coming to New York, and it's such a crazy, turbulent city, having a strong sense of self is really important. Forming those foundations, friends. I've been lucky enough to have like collaborators who are my friends, and we just get together and make things. When there's not an opportunity, don't be afraid to make those opportunities for yourself. Being like a lanky, ethnically ambiguous, skinny queer, there wasn't a lot for me, so I took it upon myself and I started writing, and it's been the most rewarding thing, making my own work. And I think the people who have stories they want to tell should just tell them.
I think that that's the most powerful part of like YouTube and this generation is that if Hollywood is going to ignore us, weird queer people, that's okay. Let them ignore us. We'll just make our own stuff. And you're really seeing that with the younger generation. So guys, if you don't look like people on TV, that's fine, because just create your own work. And that's what people are doing, and they're making money off of it, and you can too. I am here with the brilliant, young, talented actress, DELANEY Martin. She plays a younger, one of the girls, like when they do a flashback, the younger version of one of the lead girls. Tell me, what's it like making a movie?
It's really fun because you get to work with a bunch of other people and a bunch of other amazing, talented people.
And what does it feel like to watch yourself on the big screen?
It feels amazing and fun that I did all that hard work and I got to be on the screen in the movie theater.
Yes. And it is very, very hard work. Now, do you want to make more movies?
Yeah, I want to make a lot more movies.
Well, I'm sure you will, because you are brilliantly talented. This is her second movie with Source Productions, and I'm telling you, she has got the star power. I am here with the lead actor of the movie, Jackson Lynn. He plays the leading role of Joel. He is super talented and super cute. So let's talk for a minute. What was it like playing Joel? Like, that's a really, I think, hard part, like, how did you tap into his story and his experience and make it so authentic?
So the whole thing about Joel is a charmer. He's that guy in high school that everybody loves, but he also has a lot of insecurities that he internalizes.
Yes.
And so he always has that calm, cool demeanor.
Yeah.
But inside, he's really struggling with who he is as an individual, because you're coming up on that time in your life in high school where you have to make a bunch of decisions for yourself, where it's going to change. You're not going to be able to be at mommy and daddy's house anymore. You're about to be on your own out in the world, and you really have to start figuring out what it is you want to do.
And I thought what was so cool about your performance is that you played like you were so believable as that cool, popular guy that everybody loves, but I could also see through the cracks that there were insecurities there, and that's a really hard thing to do as an actor. So my final question for you is, like, how did you tap into like playing someone who finds out that they have HIV, and how did you get yourself to this emotional place that you haven't necessarily been in yourself?
The thing about film versus theater is there's a lot of tricks that you can do in between takes to get yourself in the moment. So as far as building the character, I knew where his arcs had to be. I knew what he had to do had to be sort of interpreted with subtext and sort of ambiguous.
Yeah, definitely.
So to capture that, it was just very relaxed with him.
Yeah.
but then you'd see it in his moment, his smile, his little smirk that he does, the way he talks at certain scenes gave him that sort of build up to that moment where he finally does let go and has that arc for his character where he finds out he does have
And that's
HIV.
like kind of his breaking point where
Where
reality.
everything for him comes together, and it's like, all right, this, like, I just destroyed my life. Everything I wanted to do, it's falling to pieces, but in reality, it's not. It's just another hurdle that you have to get over.
I'm here with the super talented, brilliant Alex Stafford. He is director of photography on this movie, which is such an important part of the movie making process. And I don't think a lot of people know exactly what a director of photography does. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what that role is?
So I work with KT pretty much directly on the look of the film, and we get from specifics like equipment and lighting and how we're going to do things just from a sort of logistical standpoint to a more sort of subjective, how do we want it to look, how do we want it to feel, kind of thing. And so, you know, it gets into like lens choice for how does that set a mood, or how does that look at like intimacy versus voyeurism versus, you know, all the other kind of things that can come through a lens, you know.
Yeah, and so much of like what gives something an intimate moment or a different kind of feel is the photography and the lighting and all that. So it's a really, guys, it's a really, really, really cool, important job. What would you say is the hardest part?
You know, I don't know, actually. I think it's the volume. It's the volume of work, I think, on something like this, because especially for me, coming from a stills photography world, I'm used to putting in an hour or two per frame. Yeah. And I'm shooting now 24 frames a second for 12 hours for 20 days in a row, more or less. So it's, you know, deciding on your shots and deciding on that kind of stuff. We don't have the budget to spend 6 months going through all that. So a lot of it is done sort of in the moment or in the day before, in the days leading up to. So I think that's sort of the hardest part for me, is just sort of, I'm a very structured guy. I like to put my camera on a tripod. I'm very like, and so letting go and winging it and going by feel and going with just collaboration with everybody else in the room. It's a wonderful thing, but it can be tough. It can, you know, it can be tricky.
It can be very tough.
I'm sort of the square in the room.
But we need the
square.
But we need that.
Creative people and.
But you are, first of all, you are a creative person. But I think people don't realize that on set it's such a collaboration, and you need people who are structured, and then you need people who totally wing it, and it takes a village to make a movie, and he is a huge part of that village.
And there's a dual brain kind of aspect to what I do, because there's like questions of the temperature of the sensor and the amount of noise we get through it, which was an issue on a lot of this. And the technical choices of lighting and color and things like that. And then there's the other side of it, which has to go hand in hand, which is the creative and the sort of subjective part of it. Yeah, well, and luckily I'm not responsible for the performance or directing the performance. That's KT's bag right there, and she's great at that, so.
Brad Bryan, what would we do without Brad Bryan?
Well, and I'm a big fan of this girl. I go way back with Zara.
We go way back. You're so talented. So you did the set decorating. And the sound. So tell us a little bit about the creative process of set decorating.
Well,
that was always my dream kind of job.
We had, of course, a very small crew and a very small budget, and so it was trying to make these spaces that we were entering look like what they should look like. You know, make them feel like a school. It was a school, but it was totally empty. So we had to put everything on the bulletin boards. We had to put things in the backgrounds that would make it feel lived in and make it feel real. And that's the goal of a set decorator. Even when we were in the cemetery scenes, I would be hanging Spanish moss strategically, you know, around the actors. So things like that you don't notice, but that really make the feel of the scene come alive.
And make it feel real, like you're really there.
Right.
Yeah, and then sound is a very, very tough job too. So let's talk for a second about sound.
Yeah, sound is extremely important and also extremely challenging, and I would not even say I'm the world's greatest sound person, but I did my best to get that boom where it needs to go and rig those guys up with little hidden microphones underneath their clothing if that's what the scene called for, so that we could have the best sound, because if the sound is bad, you know, you'll lose your audience really fast.
So what advice would you have young people who want to get into the technical side of film?
You know, I think filmmaking is a world that can be very open to people. When you go and you want to just start as a production assistant, and you just sort of go into whatever role you can. There are lots of things to do on a film set. You learn, you see what you kind of like, you'll start to find your niche, and you'll start to gain your skills that way. If that's assuming you don't go to film school and practice these skills in a more formal way.
But I think even then, the best way to learn all this is to just like throw yourself on set and
make mistakes.
And make mistakes.
You're gonna, oh, I should have done that a little bit differently, and then you'll know for the next time.
Yes. And I think for those of you out there who want to do film but maybe aren't like into being actors, there's so many behind the scenes creative stuff that I've like learned through watching Brad and through watching Alex. So dive in, guys. It's a whole wonderful world of film. Thank you so much.
Can I add one thing,
Yes,
which is the thing that I love so much about this project and about the Source Productions in general is KT's ability and to bring people together. This whole community, especially young people, came together to overcome a very small budget, working in some tough conditions outside in Florida in July and August when it was very hot, and everybody did it for the love of the story and the love of trying to make a difference in this community, and that is why I always keep coming back to Source Productions to work, and that is why it is so impressive to me, and I think it's such a force in our community.
Guys, I had so much fun interviewing the amazing cast and crew of the First Time Club. I think what Source Productions is doing is so amazing because they are using their creative platform as a way to make the world a better place, and they are reaching people through art. And if you think about it, that's how all social revolutions start, through artists and through people like this. So they're just really making the world a better place, one movie, one play at a time. And I feel so blessed and grateful to have spoken to them today, to have worked with them, and to have seen the First Time Club. You guys have to check it out. It is so powerful.